What go on, people? There again, Big up on yourself, say I want love. Yeah, man. So when you depend people, say cutting edge style in a night, yeah. So big up on yourself, and the things are going out there. Thanks for all the new subscribers. And you don't know it, go just like, share, and subscribe. You understand? Yeah, man. One of them things there. So you don't know, we're going to it. Yeah, man. Mutabaruka style in a night, yeah. So yeah, just like, share, and subscribe.
Monday night, Monday night. Why I did them, I go such a way and all that. I don't remember which day I know. Yeah, it's Monday at Mecca in a marketplace. Another wonderful celebration of a new book that Julius Garvey put out. Yes, it's a really important thing because the man is 91 years old. The man is 91, Rasta. Yes, his older brother passed away about 2 years or 3 years ago. But yeah, man, it is really wonderful to see things still have come out from, well, I would have said the elders. Yes, and we're glad to see the Marcus Garvey celebration draw so much crowd still. Would have hoped that more argument about Marcus Garvey would take place on the main stage. I think one time we used to have these speakers on the main stage. Now they put it in the great house, but it couldn't go up on the main stage still because I tell you, the sun did a ball out Sunday. Trust me, man. The sun, as a matter of fact, the sun a ball out every day now, But you see, when you're there a place with no cover and with asphalt there underneath your foot, it sound hotter, but yeah, the sun did a ball out. The sun did really a ball out. But we give thanks. Because, we never stop trying to talk about, emphasize the philosophy and opinions of Marcus Garvey. We never stop. We will continue. Because we have confidence that someone out there is listening and someone out there will make a difference and heed to what we say. Because it's not an easy thing when you know something in your heart about, and millions of people around the globe know something in your heart about, and then you come and realize people are going like them are idiot. Yeah, people are going like them are idiot. Because look how long we are talking about it. Look how long artists are sing about it. Long time artists are sing about it. Long time we are talking right around the world. But Jamaica, Marcus Garvey left Jamaica and go to England in disgust. Yeah, man. Marcus Garvey left Jamaica and go to England in disgust. Because he attack and a do. And the people them look like them still go back ways. And them still go back ways. Sorry. Them still go back ways in a Jamaica. It's a terrible thing for most of the people them are go back ways. But we there, still there. We're still there to push out the consciousness and the understanding. We're not stop. We're not stopping because we have to get that teaching into the schools, into the pop arena, in this little new god with them have named iPhone. That's the youth them. Them say Muhammad sometimes go to the mountain, sometimes the mountain I forgot to Muhammad. Yes. That 2,000 years ago, it's supposed to have been said, There are many here that shall not see death until the Son of Man appear, I want to ask them man the way I talk to, if them still alive now. Because him not come back yet. Somebody must explain that to me personally. Because I don't know if me have a shallow mind or shallow thing. If a man look at you and say, watch out, this is the whole I know son of person. We don't know dead today, but you say tomorrow, watch out see what will happen. What do you think he might talk about? And tomorrow he might talk about. Now this man get up and say there's many here that shall not see that. I want to know where the man is there. Where's those people that he was talking to that was not going to see that? And all those woolly man will rise up out of the grave. When he raise up, them say woolly people, and go to the city, woolly dead people rise up out of the grave. Down of the living dead. And black people sit down and believe these things. Black people actually sit down and believe, say, a whole heap of dead people are rise up out of the ground. How we get that way? And when we hear about the African understanding, when we hear about the Timbuktu, Dogons, if we ever hear about them, we say, black people are, some little witch doctor. No witch doctor in Africa. No witch doctor in Africa at all. Witch doctor is something where white people conjure up for themselves. We don't have witch doctor, we have medicine man and medicine woman, and that we have. We want to take a break and come forward. The earth, the moon, and all what we know and don't know. It's mad, it's crazy, man. Crazy. It's crazy. Why you have people, after reading that argument about 6 days, God make them on the earth and on the same day rest? Why people start to read it and believe, say, this place where we're there now, this earth, and all what we see, the sun and the moon and them thing there, it's almost 6,000 years old. If you follow the step-by-step of the Bible, it's only 6,000 years old. You know, so the earth, if you go upon the beach and put your hand in the sun and take it up in your hand and take out one speck of sun, that is like the earth amongst the sun. That one speck is like, if you drop back that speck there, in the sun heap, that is the whole, everything. The earth is almost conspicuous to where out there, outside of the planet, yeah, so. There's so much places, billions of places, not just where we see, yeah, so now, where we call the earth, and when we look up, we see the sun, and we see the moon, and sometimes we see a whole heap of stars in the sky. There are billions of that, just like the sun, just like the little speck where you take up in your hand, out there. And we still not grasp what is life, what we there to do or don't do. What is human beings' purpose on earth? Why we have so much doctrine and philosophy and argument about who was and who is and what was, and when it did happen and when it never happened. All of those things that we try to find, yet still, we still not find ourselves. Because we are search, ever since man appeared upon the earth, we are search for some meaning to what everything we see is all about. And the more we search, is the more we move from self. And the more we move from self, we start behave like we don't have no inner being in us art. We could use that art metaphorically. It's like, almost like lower than the animals. You know, we read a poem named The Monkey Speaks His Mind. Maybe I should have played that poem, The Monkey Speaks His Mind, where it gives a good example of what are all creatures might see man. Yeah. It really, I tell you, how man behave on the earth and how animals view man. I don't know how much I ever say a movie name, Planet of the Apes, the original Planet of the Apes, with Charlton Heston. But the probability of that happening is not far-fetched. Because all the things one time we used to see them in a movie, I said, just a fiction. But it's not far-fetched that one day these apes, where them say man descended from, might just look upon man and say, watch a man, only done mash up the place already, you know. Give me back my earth. Give me back my earth. I want back my earth. They destroy too much things on it. And make life miserable. Not only for we the apes and on ourselves, but other creatures, insects, birds, plant, all of these things. Man is the most terrible thing on the earth. Yes. Man is the biggest problem on earth. And we don't want to recognize that. Because look what we're doing. Look what we're doing. All them, what them call it, climate change. You think it's God that do the climate change? It's human beings in them craziness and create disturbance in the atmosphere with them chemical germs and them chemical warfare. And then them start tell you about God. God don't have none to do with it. You think when earthquake come and God shake the earthquake, that's why everybody jump up and play, Lord Jesus Christ, God, and start praying and all them something there. That not help you. That not helping you. Earthquake will come and you pray to God for this and that. It's not going to help you. That is like when the same book say, when the rain fall, it not fall upon one man, oh stop. Because the promoter don't want rain fall. But the farmer want the rain fall. It's just so it go. And when it fall upon the farm and it fall upon the show we are going to keep, the concert we are going to keep. It has nothing to do with where you go to church go deal with. Nothing. You know some people now beg when we say all them something there. But I'm not afraid to say it. You think that through you pray for the lottery, you're going to win the lottery. You have to buy a ticket and hope say your number come up. You can't pray for win lottery. It's madness. It's madness. You're the man that drive him car and him see a next man and the man make a wrong move and go over a precipice. And the two man them were in the car broke up. So one man foot broke. And the people them up there say, why God save him from 2 foot no broke, you know? Then why God make one of the foot broke? A man will answer you and say, why God know where am I do, you know? If he make my foot broke, God know where I do because he make my foot broke. What kind of crazy thinking that? Something took out one or somebody I say, why God good, you know. It's a, you know, you have to thank God saying that you too high them. Is that yeah, me know me sound, but that's how me have a sound. You know what I say? Me too high them. You know, say me too high them could have took out. And God saved the other eye, you know. So we don't know why him took out one of the eye. Them have another argument to give. It's a purpose. It happened for a purpose, a reason. Man lose him, eye trouble is a reason. That is like Donald Trump over there, so we say, why if him going to power, no war no never upon the earth. Everything, and Russia and them would have hear where I say, they would have stopped the war and the first day when them get elected. And when them in a power war, they say, you know. But no, I say, when them didn't have power, no war never about. Let me say, he might take unto himself that God figure. God figure. And I saw it go until you start to get narcissistic and religious. Religious people, very narcissistic. If you don't understand what the word means, go look like your iPhone. You have that now for decipher things. Church people, I find church people to be very arrogant. Very arrogant. And them don't understand what is arrogance. Because them so deep into what them believe and not what them know. Them believe something and them belief become that reality. Belief is not knowledge. When you have knowledge, you don't believe it. Knowledge can be tested. Knowledge can be tested. A man believes something, he might believe it, and it comfort him, just like when people pray. When a man say, boy, I pray say him not dead, you know. I pray say him not dead, you know. And everybody say, you must go home and pray that your mother get better, your father get better. That you must feel good when you pray. And your prayer is for the person who pray. You pray about, why, you know, I'm going to go and go pray hard for you, you know, that you get better, that you pass your exam. I'm praying for you, you know, that you pass your exam. That have nothing to do with you. You have to go and go study. You have to go and go study. It have nothing to do with the next person, but them I pray for you. That is where the pastor them wicked. Wicked such a people them. That them I tell you to go and go pray, and them will pray for you. And if there's something happen where them pray for, them say, see it, I told you, all you have to have is just a little faith. See it? It's just prayers do it, you know, Sister Ines, prayers. All you have to do is prayer. Wicked people them who say that to everybody, wicked. When the thing where you pray for happen, you say, see that God good. So when it not happen, where you say, why you never have enough faith? Sister J, you never have enough faith, you know. That's why it don't happen, you know. You have to go home back and have faith. Have faith. Faith is the substance of things hoped for and evidence of things not seen. The Bible says that. And I never say it, you know. Bible has said it. It's a terrible thing them find we now. And the people them who hold up this faith, this religion, church business, look on all of them. All of them. them have some little closet secret. Them little secret things and secret that. Like all the Roman Catholic priests them all over the world. The Roman Catholic priests them have big lawsuit against them because them is pedophiles. That church have the most pedophiles. Trouble little boys, some little 60-year-old, 50-year-old man I play with some little altar boys. Them call them altar boys. It's really altar, them put them on the sacrifice lamb, slaughter them. And meanwhile, them come out in front of you and have on this and have on that and I pray this and I pray that. Like say you were there in the church need prayers. And them are going to make sure that them pray for you. And when them done, them go with the little boys, them. And them have the long 1 hour drawn out talk. But when you sit down with them, man, they make you all want to cry. They make you all want to cry, man, when you listen to them and say, yes, sir, yes, pastor, yes, preacher. And you go home and say, boy, preacher, do a good sermon today, you know. Him said this and him said that and him said this. And meanwhile, him gone home. Or maybe him go home. And people drop them collection for build up him church. Or send him picnic or foreign, go school. Or when him sick, him can go 28 sword. When you sick, you have to go, you must cough or take your blood pressure and thing. And when him done, him write up on something in a Latin, and whatsoever I write it in until they say, go to the pharmacy and get this. And wash out. You have 2 things you have to do. You have to cut off your ear, go a barber, and take wash out. And she give the food, you know, but you have to take wash out. Where you wash out? What you washing out? And then when you take it, you dry your yard, and what they say, you can't eat until you go to the toilet. And then you wash out that, and then you go to school and you have the madness again. Bolo slush. Anybody out there know when you bolo slush? The bolo slush. You go and you get the bolo slush and then you eat with the other gate. Snow cone, patty and cocoa bread and all these things. And then when you go home again, you eat all these things. We'll eat a chicken back and white rice and maybe some flour. White flour, them dumplings, they're so tight. That's all. When you go to the toilet, you're tight. Very tight too. When you're in the toilet, people are wondering what's wrong with you. It's wrong with you in the toilet. Because you have grown on a moon. And them kind of food that we used to eat, you know. Yeah, man, and them kind of food that you get, man. Flour dumpling. Cocoa, yam breadfruit, fried green breadfruit, boil up like hog food. Some people love whole heap of rice on them plate and a little bit of food with a little lettuce on the side. Remember when your mother used to put lettuce and slice a little tomato, them call it salad, and then throw salt on it that you can't stand the taste. I wonder if people still do them something there. Maybe them don't eat no vegetable. Them don't eat no vegetable. Young people nowadays don't want no vegetable feed. They want it straight up, dead as meat between 2 bread. Maybe a little piece of tomato and a lettuce on top of it. And then them drink it down with a Pepsi. And some people say, boy, I get too fat, you know. And them go in at the fast food restaurant and them buy all of these junk food and then I take, when them want a diet Pepsi or a diet Coke and all them something there. Not going to work. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. That's why so much madness about the place. It's not only poverty that causes the madness, but it's a lifestyle that causes the madness too. All the whole heap of ignorance and road, hog them on the road and gunman. You think it's only Because and poverty makes a whole heap of this happening, you know, because a whole heap of them youth that can afford something. You ever see a section actually, look on all the holiday them are gone. And look how the woman them dress. You think of some woman where have it, but them get it. Them dress to wear with a car, dress to push foot. And when them have an expensive too. Because them not buy no cheap thing, because them have to show up on them friend. And when you see them I eat, some of them, may I tell you, them some of them they have teeth in their mouth. And instead of them go to dentist, them prefer put on an eyelash than go to the dentist and fix their mouth. Yeah, man. Right now, if them fingers see how them can't go out again with them normal finger. They have to put on this long thing like Dracula. We cry, yo. Better you know go. Gentleman, watch how not go to bed with them woman there, you know, Rasta. Especially if you are cheat. And you know what, so your woman know a yard. By the time she take off your shirt and take her fingernail juke in your back. When you reach on your wife, I will ask you, whether your back so crack. And I said, boy, you want to say the neighbor dog, the jump on me last week, you know. I never show it. Wicked. No, man, they're a terrible place. Well, they're a terrible place, man. Because we don't understand self as African people. We still don't understand ourselves. What is it that we are searching for in life? What we want to get out of life before we go out of life. You hear some Rasta man that talk about when man did him say, boy, I'm gone as Zion. What am I talk about? So when everybody else dead, them gone at him. And when Rasta dead, them gone as Zion. Which part of Zion there? So you have to say appear dead Rasta there as Zion all of a sudden. When me come in a Rasta, me never know so Zion was a graveyard. And I drop me everybody I say, no, boy, I'm gone as Zion. Me you see you say Zion I eat you up here. And there was a place near Mount Zion in Israel there. Where the city of the great king. That is what the Bible talk about, you know. When the Bible talk about Mount Zion, you know, the city of the great king. It's King David place him talk about. Not no dead yard. I know me hear Rasta man there ball out. When a Rasta dead him talk about. Boy, I'm passed away, you know, I'm gone to Zion. I hope him just Irene as Zion. Irene with Zion. Him dead. Just like Ada we're going to. Yes, it's just so it go. Stop the damn foolishness. And I follow them. We don't have to follow them. We have to find yourself, man. If you have no confidence in yourself, you are twice defeated in the race of life. But with confidence, you have won even before you have started. So I could play this tune here. I'm going to go and play the song that as a youth we listen to, and it's stuck in our head so much that, you know, a long time I say, you know, so when we grow big, I will go in our studio and sing over that song there or say over that poem there. And this is where we listen to. Listen, this is where we listen to. That's a drop asleep, but them very to the point, edifying, and we select them specially for this program, yes. So, we want you stay tuned. You know, it's a talk about religion. That is really what it's a talk about. So, we want you to stick around because, as we say, very interesting and important that we do these kind of things. Just like how we play the music, we play the clip them. The clip them is where you listen to. And the music is where you move your shoulder to in the day, in the morning, yeah. Or the night, yeah, and the morning yet. So we just tell you that. We're going to take a break and come forward. Ari.
Say so. And the Catholic Church insists, therefore, that the Church, Hindus believe that the Vedas are divinely revealed and inspired, of divine, or rather a Buddhic origin. The Japanese believe that the ancient limits of what language he knows. And by language here, I don't only... When Kabir, a great Hindu-Muslim mystic, was a very psychotechnics and started raising people from the dead and prolonging life without having the unique advantage of being the boss's son. Born of a virgin, the King James Bible that descended with the angel, you will see in italics in front of perfectly plain that Jesus got it in the back of his mind that this isn't, in the proper sense of the word mystic, not someone who to the gospel. Summed up in the prayer.
An excerpt from the prophet Khalil Gibran. How much of you know who named Khalil Gibran? A Lebanese poet who was exiled out of his country. He have a book named The Prophet. He have many books. But that one come from named The Prophet by Khalil Gibran. Very interesting philosophy that we have been exposing the people them to from a long time. And it can't get old. Like some vintage song, can't get old. So we continue to do it. We continue to do it because who else going to do it? Who else going to do it?
When asked what surprised him most about humanity, the Dalai Lama answered, "We sacrifice our health in order to make wealth. Then we sacrifice our wealth in order to get back our health." We're so anxious about what will happen in the future that we don't enjoy the present. The result being, we don't live in the present or the future. We end up living feeling like we're never going to die, and then die never having truly lived. Ellen Goodman said normal is getting dressed in clothes that you buy for work and driving through traffic in a car that you're still paying for in order to get to the job that you need to pay for the clothes and car and the home that's empty all day just so you can afford to live in it. We live in a world where daydreams are more common than dream jobs, where money clouds our search for meaning. In search for profit, we sacrifice our quest for purpose, and in the pursuit of those paychecks, we give up our passions. We're completely rooted to our routines. We're plagued by indecision and lack of vision. They say that the most powerful prison is one when you don't even know that you're locked up. See, the suits are our uniforms. Our cufflinks are the handcuffs. Our ties are the chains. Our boss is like the guard, and well, our cubicles are our cells. And now I know why they call it the glass ceiling, because it shatters our dreams. The only thing we excel at is Microsoft. Now that's a PowerPoint. You know what it's like. We spend the whole day trying to get our work on time, but then spend all of our time thinking about work. We wish our out of office could be permanent. We wish that our inbox would always remain empty. Our LinkedIn resumes are more interesting than our actual jobs. Our profile pictures are the happiest we've been in a long time. We live for the weekend, but then end up feeling weak, clockwork and monotony. But honestly, could Mondays be more meaningful? Could Tuesdays be less torture? Could Wednesdays be more worth it? Could Thursdays be more transformative? Could Fridays be more fulfilling? We count down the next 50 weeks, knowing that there's another 50 years. We count down for the next escape, knowing that there really isn't one. Because even when we're away from our desks, our minds are still there with the checklists in our heads. We stuff ourselves into our work clothes, then our buses, then the cars, then the trains, and then our offices, only to wait 5 days to live again. And we don't have time to eat dinner together, so we end up eating out of takeaway boxes, not realizing that the TV box takes away from our relationships. We eat on the go, meet on the go, we even sleep on the go, and then...
You know, we have to go all and pull up that one here and take it from the top, because we have the 12 o'clock signal that come through and we never want to cut it. So we never time it good enough that it don't cut in on the the 12 o'clock thing. So we're going to take the 12 o'clock and start it over. Yes. So 12 o'clock. Brothers and sisters.
Chop people want to know big up on yourself, you understand? So just remember, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. You understand? Yeah, man. Make sure say you're a real Christian and you're no grease can. You understand? So people big up yourself. I just want to tell you that. You understand? Yeah, man. Big up on yourself. I want love. Straight.
Torture. Could Wednesdays be more worth it? Could Thursdays be more transformative? Could Fridays be more fulfilling? We count down the next 50 weeks knowing that there's another 50 years. We count down for the next escape knowing that there really isn't one. Because even when we're away from our desks, our minds are still there with the checklists in our heads. We stuff ourselves into our work clothes, then our buses, then the cars, then the trains, and then our offices, only to wait 5 days to live again. And we don't have time to eat dinner together, so we end up eating out of takeaway boxes, not realizing that the TV box takes away from our relationships. We eat on the go, meet on the go, we even sleep on the go, and then wonder why everyone cheats on the go. We're told it's normal to have a 9 to 5. Actually, sorry, it's a 9 to 9. And it's fine if you don't get enough time with the person you love it took you so long to find. It's normal to work late nights for that next holiday. We work 11 months in a row for 1 month of leave with pay. Hey, who came up with that? It's not normal. We have to reclaim our lives because right now we can all barely survive. And because when he comes late home from work, she says, you work so hard for a job that would replace you tomorrow if you drop dead. And he says, I don't have time for this right now. And then she says, nothing ever changes. We force ourselves out of bed to live the same day again and again and call it a life. Imagine this for a moment. What if Oprah listened to her haters and doubters? What if Steve Jobs settled for a real job? What if The Rock never broke through depression? What if Ellen never overcame the bullying? Imagine a world where everyone lived their passion. We'd be better people. We'd be better partners. We'd be better parents. See, I've never seen a strong person with an easy past. We all have a passion. We all have a genius inside us. We have that potential. I know that we've all been in that position, feeling confused and seriously lacking mission. But then I ask myself, at the end of my life, what will I regret? And the answer is clear. The pain of regret far outweighs the pain of risk. So next time you're going through challenges, just remember this. A winner is just a loser who tried one more time. All you need is one person to say yes. One moment can change everything. There are decades when nothing happens, and there are days where decades happen. A year from now, you will have wished you started today.
So if anything up on your mind, call me and make we discuss it. This is the Cutting Edge. We are going through. Here we go. Third word.
The inhumane treatment of men, women, and children, and the eventual abolition of the slave trade. But what many of us don't know is that the abolition of the slave trade in the early 19th century led to the creation of a new and even more sinister aspect of slavery: sex farms and slave breeding farms. The goal of these farms was simple: to produce more slaves. Slave owners realized that they could no longer import slaves from Africa, so they turned to breeding them like animals. They would carefully select which slaves would mate with each other based on their physical attributes, health, and even intelligence, in the hopes of producing the strongest and most profitable offspring. Slave breeding farms were located throughout the southern United States, with some estimates suggesting that there were as many as 70 in operation at the height of their popularity. These farms were often run by wealthy plantation owners who saw slave breeding as a lucrative business opportunity. But the horrors of slave breeding farms did not stop there. In some cases, plantation owners would set up sex farms, where slaves, often young girls, were forced to engage in sexual activity with other slaves or with the plantation owners themselves. The offspring of these forced sexual encounters were also seen as profitable commodities and were often sold off at auctions to the highest bidder. The true extent of these practices is difficult to quantify, as records were often destroyed or deliberately hidden. But it is estimated that thousands of slaves were forced to participate in these breeding programs, resulting in countless atrocities and human rights violations. In this video, we are going to reveal 10 of the most horrific facts of slave breeding and sex farms in the United States. These facts may be uncomfortable to hear, but it's important to acknowledge the brutality and inhumanity of slavery in all its forms. But before that, hit the subscribe button to stay on this channel for more content like this. Fact number 1. Enslaved women were seen as breeding machines and impregnated by several men. One of the most disturbing facts about sex farms during slavery is that enslaved women were seen as little more than breeding machines. Plantation owners and overseers saw them as a means of producing more enslaved people to increase their wealth and power. In order to achieve this goal, enslaved women were often forced to have sex with several men, regardless of their own desires or consent. This practice was particularly prevalent in the Deep South, where the climate and soil were well suited to the cultivation of cotton, and the demand for enslaved labor was high. Enslaved women on these plantations were often subjected to brutal physical and sexual abuse, with no hope of escape or redress. They were seen as property rather than human beings, and their bodies were treated as such. The practice of forced breeding was not limited to the Deep South, however. It was also common in other regions of the country, including the Chesapeake Bay area and the Upper South. Plantation owners in these areas also saw enslaved women as a means of increasing their wealth and power and used them accordingly. The evidence for the forced breeding of enslaved women can be found in a number of historical sources. Plantation records, for example, often include references to enslaved women who were breeders or breeding stock. These records also reveal the number of children produced by these women, as well as their age, health, and other relevant information. In addition to plantation records, there are also numerous slave narratives that document the experiences of enslaved women who were forced to breed. One such narrative is that of Harriet Jacobs, an enslaved woman who lived in North Carolina in the mid-19th century. In her memoir, Incidents in the Life of a Slave Girl, Jacobs describes the horror of being forced to have sex with her owner in order to produce children. Fact number 2. Female slaves were forced into sexual relationships with their owners or overseers. Sexual abuse of female slaves was widespread during the period of American slavery. Slave women were not only subjected to forced labor, but also to sexual exploitation by their owners and overseers. This practice was not limited to any particular region or plantation, but it was prevalent throughout the American South. The first evidence of sexual abuse of female slaves can be traced back to the transatlantic slave trade. Female slaves were often taken captive and forced to endure the long and arduous journey across the Atlantic in cramped and unsanitary conditions. During this journey, slave women were subjected to sexual abuse by the crew members and the other male slaves. Once in the American South, female slaves were subjected to even more sexual abuse. This abuse took many forms, including rape, forced sexual relationships, and prostitution. Owners and overseers would often take advantage of their power and authority to coerce slave women into sexual relationships. These relationships were often violent and non-consensual, and many slave women were impregnated as a result. The children born from these forced sexual relationships were not considered the children of their fathers, but rather the property of their mother's owners. This meant that these children were also slaves and could be sold or traded just like any other commodity. This practice was particularly common in the Upper South, where slaves were bred for sale to the Lower South. One example of this practice can be found in the story of Sally Hemings, a slave woman who was owned by former U.S. President Thomas Jefferson. Hemings was forced into a sexual relationship with Jefferson, and she gave birth to 6 children, 4 of whom survived to adulthood. These children were not recognized as Jefferson's children during his lifetime, but DNA evidence has since confirmed their paternity. Another particularly disturbing example of sexual abuse is the case of Celia, a slave woman who was owned by Robert Newsom in Missouri. Newsom repeatedly raped Celia and when she became pregnant, he refused to acknowledge the child as his own. When Celia killed Newsom in an act of self-defense, she was tried and convicted of murder and hanged. This case highlights the brutal reality of sexual abuse and violence that many slave women faced in the American South. Fact number 3. The offspring produced on sex farms were separated from their families and sold as soon as they were weaned. The practice of separating families during slavery was widespread, and it was not uncommon for enslaved children to be sold away from their parents. However, on sex farms, this practice was particularly prevalent. Enslaved women who were forced to breed were often impregnated by men who were not their husbands or partners. As a result, the children produced on sex farms were not part of a nuclear family unit, but rather a product to be sold for profit. According to historical records, many plantation owners saw the sale of enslaved children as a lucrative business opportunity. The price of an enslaved child varied depending on factors such as age, gender, and health, but they were generally sold for a higher price than adult enslaved people. This was because the children had the potential to grow up and become productive laborers, as well as future breeders themselves. In many cases, enslaved children were sold at public auctions, where they would be separated from their mothers and other family members. These auctions were often traumatic for both the enslaved people being sold and those who remained behind. In his book, The Half Has Never Been Told, Slavery and the Making of American Capitalism, historian Edward E. Baptist describes the emotional pain that families experienced when they were separated. Enslaved people wailed and moaned, sobbed and screamed, and many of them ran to the edge of the auction platform, reaching for children or parents or loves who were being sold away from them. The separation of families on sex farms had long-lasting effects on the enslaved people involved. Children who were sold away from their mothers often faced a lifetime of trauma and loss, and parents who were forced to give up their children lived with the pain of that separation for the rest of their lives. Fact number 4. Some plantation owners would offer rewards to enslaved men who could impregnate the most women. It may seem unimaginable to think that a person could be rewarded for impregnating multiple women, but this was a reality for some enslaved men on sex farms during slavery. Plantation owners would offer incentives to enslaved men who could produce the most offspring, which would be sold for profit. This practice perpetuated the dehumanization of enslaved people and further cemented their status as property rather than human beings with agency and autonomy. In some cases, plantation owners would even go so far as to pit enslaved men against each other in a competition to impregnate the most women. This not only caused harm to the enslaved women who were forced to participate in this system, but also created a toxic environment among enslaved men who were forced to compete with each other for the approval of their enslavers. One example of this can be found in the diary of a plantation owner named James Hammond, who owned several plantations in South Carolina during the mid-1800s. In his diary, Hammond detailed his efforts to breed enslaved people for profit and boasted about the fertility of his enslaved women. He wrote that he offered rewards to the enslaved men who could impregnate the most women, stating that it was a great stimulus for them. This type of behavior is not only morally reprehensible, but it also had lasting consequences for the enslaved people who were forced to participate in the system. The offspring produced in this way were often sold as soon as they were weaned, leading to the separation of families and further dehumanization of enslaved people. Fact number 5. Enslaved women who were deemed to be good breeders were often treated better than those who were not. With the abolition of the slave trade, enslavers turned to women to expand the numbers of their slaves. During this time, women were viewed as reproductive machines, and their ability to bear children was a significant factor in determining their value. Enslaved women who were deemed to be good breeders were highly valued, and plantation owners often treated them better than those who were not. According to historian Deirdre Cooper Owens, plantation owners would use various criteria to determine which women were good breeders. Some factors included age, physical attributes, and fertility rates. Enslaved women who met these criteria were forced to have sex with male slaves, often against their will, and were then closely monitored throughout their pregnancies to ensure that they produced healthy offspring. Plantation owners often provided better living conditions and food to enslaved women who were good breeders. They would also give them preferential treatment in terms of work assignments and punishments. This was because the offspring produced by these women were more valuable and profitable for the plantation owner. One example of this can be seen in the life of the famous abolitionist, Harriet Jacobs. Jacobs was enslaved in North Carolina and was forced to have 2 children with her owner, Dr. James Norcom. She was deemed a good breeder and was treated relatively well compared to other enslaved women on the plantation. However, Jacobs refused to have any more children with Norcom and chose to hide in a small attic space for 7 years to avoid his advances. Despite the preferential treatment that some enslaved women received, they were still subject to the brutal conditions of slavery. They were still considered property and were forced to have sex against their will. Fact number 6. Slave breeding was a profitable business for slave owners and seen as a way to increase the owner's wealth. The breeding of enslaved people allowed plantation owners to increase their wealth by producing more enslaved people without having to pay for additional labor. Plantation owners often kept detailed records of the children born on their farms, noting their age, sex, and parentage. These records served as a way for owners to keep track of their assets and to calculate the value of their property. Children born to enslaved mothers were often sold at auction, with the price being determined by a number of factors, including their age, health, and sex. The profitability of the breeding of enslaved people can be seen in the records like that of Thomas Thistlewood. The Jamaican plantation owner kept meticulous records of his breeding practices that would be revealed centuries later. Between 1750 and 1786, he recorded over 3,000 births on his farm, with many of these children being the result of forced breeding. Thistlewood saw the breeding of enslaved people as a way to increase his wealth, noting in his diary that all slaves are profitable, but breeding women more so than men. Another example of the profitability of slave breeding can be seen in the story of Isaac Franklin and John Armfield, 2 slave traders who operated in Alexandria, Virginia. Franklin and Armfield specialized in the slave trade and made a fortune by buying and selling slaves. They also engaged in the practice of slave breeding, and Franklin is estimated to have fathered over 600 children with female slaves in his possession. These children were then sold or traded for a profit. In addition to these records, there are numerous other historical documents that provide striking evidence to these barbaric practices. For example, advertisements for slave auctions often highlighted the breeding capabilities of enslaved women, with phrases such as prolific breeders or good breeders being used to describe them. These advertisements serve as a stark reminder of the inhumane and exploitative nature of the slave trade. Fact number 7. Plantation owners would hire doctors to oversee the breeding of enslaved people and to treat any medical issues that arose. While it may seem paradoxical for doctors, who are supposed to be healers, to oversee the breeding of enslaved people, this was a common practice on many plantations during the antebellum period. Plantation owners would hire doctors to ensure that enslaved women were healthy enough to breed and to treat any medical issues that arose during the breeding process. One particularly notorious example of this was Dr. J. Marion Sims, who is often referred to as the father of modern gynecology. Sims performed a number of experimental surgeries on enslaved women in the mid-1800s, including surgeries to repair fistulas, a condition that often occurred during childbirth. Sims conducted these surgeries without anesthesia, as he believed that enslaved people did not experience pain in the same way as white people. His work on fistulas led to the development of new surgical techniques, but it came at a great cost to the enslaved women who were subjected to his experiments. In addition to performing surgeries, doctors were also responsible for ensuring that enslaved women were healthy enough to produce offspring. This often involved monitoring their diets and treating any illnesses that could affect their ability to conceive. However, it's important to note that this care was not provided out of concern for the well-being of the enslaved people, but rather to ensure that they were able to produce more enslaved people for the plantation owner's profit. Fact number 8. Enslaved women on sex farms were often given inadequate nutrition and health care, leading to high rates of infant mortality. While fertile women were considered valuable and used as reproductive machines to produce more slaves on sex farms, the living conditions on these farms were not any better, and as a result, many infants did not survive. Enslaved women on sex farms were forced to work long hours in the fields, which meant that they were not able to take care of their babies as they should. The infants were often malnourished and sickly, and the women had no access to proper medical care to help them. This would contribute to the high rates of infant mortality as at that time. One example of this is the case of the Louisiana State Penitentiary, also known as Angola Prison. In the late 1800s and early 1900s, Angola Prison had a large population of enslaved women who were forced to work on a sex farm. The women were subjected to brutal treatment and were given little food and water. They were also denied medical care and were forced to give birth in filthy conditions, which led to high rates of infant mortality. In a report published by the American Public Health Association in 1915, it was noted that the infant mortality rate at Angola Prison was 75%. This means that out of every 4 infants born on the farm, only 1 survived. This is a staggering statistic and shows just how dire the situation was for these women and their children. Unfortunately, Angola Prison was not the only place case. Many other sex farms across the country had similarly high rates of infant mortality. The women who were forced to work on these farms were subjected to unimaginable cruelty, leading to the death of their babies. Fact number 9. The practice of slave breeding and sex farms continued even after the abolition of slavery. Even after the abolition of slavery, the practice of slave breeding and sex farms continued in some parts of the United States. While the 13th Amendment to the Constitution abolished slavery in 1865, it did not prohibit the practice of slave breeding or sexual exploitation of former slaves. In fact, there is evidence to suggest that the practice of slave breeding continued in some parts of the South well into the early 20th century. This was due in part to the fact that many former slaves continued to work on the same plantations where they had been enslaved and were still subject to the same exploitative and abusive conditions. One of the most well-known cases of post-abolition slave breeding occurred in Natchez, Mississippi. Between the late 1860s and the early 1900s, wealthy white planters in the area engaged in a system of fancy trade, where they would buy and sell young, light-skinned African-American women who were specifically bred for their physical appearance and sexual appeal. These women, known as fancy girls, were often the daughters of mixed-race slaves and were sold at auction for exorbitant prices. They were then forced into sexual relationships with white plantation owners and their male guests, and their offspring were often sold back into the slave trade. In addition to the fancy trade, there were also reports of forced sexual relationships between white plantation owners and their former female slaves. This was made easier by the fact that many former slaves continued to live and work on the same plantations where they had been enslaved, and were often still subjected to the same abusive treatment. Fact number 10. Slave breeding and sex farms were often defended by slave owners and supporters of slavery. Despite the horrific and exploitative nature of slave breeding and sex farms, many slave owners and supporters of slavery defended the practice as necessary for the economic prosperity of the American South. They argued that the breeding of enslaved people was an important source of labor for the plantation economy, and that without it, the region would suffer economically. For example, in his 1857 book, The Impending Crisis of the South, Southern writer and politician Hinton Rowan Helper defended the practice of slave breeding as a necessary economic strategy. He wrote that, "The raising of Negroes for the Southern market has been carried on to a considerable extent, and that it has proved to be a lucrative and profitable business." Similarly, in a speech delivered in 1850, U.S. Senator James Henry Hammond of South Carolina defended the practice of slave breeding as necessary for the economic success of the Southern states. He argued that the breeding of enslaved people was a more cost-effective way of acquiring labor than importing new slaves from Africa or purchasing them from other regions. These justifications for slave breeding and sex farms highlight the deep-seated racism and economic interests that underpin the institution of slavery. Rather than acknowledging the inhumane and exploitative nature of the practice, slave owners and their supporters saw enslaved people solely as a source of labor, without regard for their basic human rights and dignity. Furthermore, these justifications ignore the fact that enslaved people were not merely property or commodities, but were human beings with families, cultures, and histories. By treating enslaved people solely as sources of labor, slave owners and supporters of slavery perpetuated a system of exploitation and dehumanization that continues to have lasting impacts on American society. While it may be difficult to confront the reality of what happened on sex farms during slavery, it's important that we acknowledge and remember these atrocities in order to fully understand the impact that slavery has had on American society. The practice of slave breeding was not only inhumane but also dehumanizing, as it reduced human beings to nothing more than commodities to be bought, sold, and traded. The evidence of this practice is overwhelming, and it is important to learn from this dark chapter in history. By acknowledging the deep-seated racism and exploitation that underpinned these practices and working to dismantle the systems of inequality and injustice that continue to affect Black Americans, we can begin to create a more just and equitable society for all. Thanks for watching. Do not forget to like and
Greetings.
Yeah, you slave us. I mean,
If them continue with them, I don't know, it's going to fail way. Yeah, it's going to fail way eventually. Because them song there, well written about a situation. Them song there now make again. And the song they are over 20-year-old, you know. I guess the youth are all Christian. But really and truly, them song there. This is the cutting edge, you know. We are got through, trust me. We are got through.
Yeah, big up Shane too, yeah, and the operator, yeah. Yeah, man. Yes, Muta. Like how the program, everything are going, you know.
Yeah, man, give thanks, man, give thanks.
Because, you know, I'm never there, you know, so.
Okay.
You know, I'm forward back.
Where you go, Israel?
No, you know, we never got Israel yet.
Eh?
No, we never got Israel yet. No, maybe one at a time, you know.
Yeah, man, me rebel go down there.
Yeah. But I'm gonna tell me say Israel is like a multicultural place, you know.
Yeah, man. You have Ethiopia down there enough for them to ship down there. You have the Hebrew Israelite, them, you know, the Mona, them that send for it.
Yeah.
And you have Arabs down there enough. You know, Palestinians and all them people from Egypt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But most of the people when I hear said, like, populated down there still are like the Russia people and Ukraine, Russia people.
Yeah, Ukraine down there enough. Ukraine, yeah.
Yeah, because, you know, I do a trace span down there, you know. Because some of these my thing, I always deal with my trace. That means whenever time I hold a conversation, you know, I can know, you know, how for really, you know, see it. Yeah. Because it don't make sense, you don't know nothing, you know, about your talk.
Yeah.
You know, because some man stay, you know, they don't really know nothing but them attack, and when you ask them question and them, you know.
Only for them call the program, yeah, I tell you.
Yeah, so true that now the thing get complicated, because, you know, a man wants to tell you where he feel like.
Yeah, when
not
believe.
tell you the fact, you know.
When believe,
yeah. You see it. But, now watch and look upon Jamaica, you know, with the crime thing. You know, even the shooting down
Clarendon.
Clarendon there. You know? And, you know, when we see I go on, you know, I don't really love, you know.
Well, no one couldn't love that, man. No one couldn't love it, man.
And, you know, I said this, that, you know, when I say them have a way now where, like, for instance, the Prime Minister come out and him say something. But now I say, like, the Commissioner, the Prime Minister, and the head of the army, you know, where me not really see the head of the army necessary for come say. No turns and them thing there.
No, what is it?
No. Seem like when Nigel Clark did say about SSL, man. See, the army, we don't have an army for that. And the police them to deal with that. You know, you don't need no army for you to come out. Because we train army for. No for defend and kill. And that
But
train
I don't
army
think
for.
the Jamaica need army. But Jamaica need army for that.
Yeah, right now Jamaica don't need the army.
Oh, sir.
So when a press conference and you're calling the army leader, you know, and the army leader will come in and say, it's not really necessary, man. A police work them, man. A police supposed to come say, well, we're going to find them killer there. And see that them will bring them to justice. You know?
Yeah.
See? You know, so, you know, I take time I watch and I say, you know, what really happened? Because what we don't want no more time.
But a long time army have scout the place for the police, you know.
Yeah.
Police and army, the government call them out.
Yeah, the army can assist the police.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we don't want to reach a level where at the head of the army come out like you have said, like Wagwan and Middle East now. You know, where the head of the army come out and give for them speech.
The
press conference and all them things there. You know, as if like say, because you know say, where the army are going to say, them are going to find them and lock them up. The army can't say that because the army not trained for that. You understand? See, so when an army will come out, no, I head of an army will come out and I say something like that. No, man, allow the police them, man, the police them do them work, man. The police them make them speech and do them work. You understand? See, the Prime Minister always are involved, like I might involve everybody in a certain little thing, and you know, some people first stay by themselves when for them time comes to defend Jamaica, them deal with that part. Yeah, you understand what I say, Muta?
Yeah, well, them see the man them as criminal to the point where it's like you go to war, you know, them youth, them a see, say them youth are going like them a warrior. Them call themselves warrior too.
But at the same time, you know, when you look on the whole thing, you know, this thing are mixed up in a way because I see all a big coke bus, you know. I mean, see
them lock up the man them.
Well, me not see no man. Well, them lock up some man.
Yeah, man, them not get some man, and some $1 billion worth of coke.
Yeah.
About 4 of them 50-year-old, one of them at 70-year-old too. You know, you about it?
Foot soldier them, man. The real man them not lock up. The man there. Hey, $billions worth of coke at, you know. You think them man there? You think we go Colombia or go Guatemala, any one of the Central American or South American countries, Mexico, so go buy them coke there, them amount of coke there, plus ship it at Jamaica. Motor, you think a baby money do them thing there?
No, I know baby money neither. It's a big businessman where everybody respect do that.
All right, you think, say, are some baby people are going them thing there? Are some little man we just have some?
Yeah,
some
I tell you, say some big man.
The organization
well respected in the communities.
Well respectable, some politicians.
Uptown and yes, everybody. Well,
you understand? So when a man hold some little man where right now if you check out the man the CV or check out the man the background, you will find say there's some little man where come from down.
Yeah, but why them hold them are the man who carry it, you know? The big man now carry it, you know?
Yeah.
So you hold on upon them and them have to tell you who.
Yeah, but you have to hear who. No, many a time you hear them thing they go on, you know, hear who. You understand? Because remember, you know, even the airport where them build there, you know, seeing how much bag up a coke, you know, them would find there, you know. And I'll know not even one man will get arrested. You know. So you want them to say, them cook there, just get up and fly from Colombia or fly from anywhere in Central America or South America and come at Jamaica, take off themselves off of the plane, put themselves in the airport, and no, you know, you're nothing. Young year say it's there for investigation. You understand? So we want them to hold some man where we can say, yes, the man there. See? Yeah, the man there look like, yeah, you understand? Because when you check out him background, him have that and him have that and him have that and him have that and him have that. The man there, where them are hold, you know, there's some little foot soldier. You think the real man at the house where with that. You understand?
I go to the real man and hold them and lock them up too.
I go to all the real man, hold them and lock them up too. See him on a level there. You see?
You know,
but you know, them things they keep
like
on
a movie. It's like a movie, man. I tell you.
It's like a movie. Yes. So, hey, you know what I say? More time, sometimes I tell you, say, all more time, I depend on read and attack. And, you know, me I say, boy, as a human rights activist, see, me I say, it's sometimes it's just like a talk shop, you know, because when you look on the whole thing, you see some bigger thing happen. And you remember the 5, I remember last year, 5 people dead. And they make some move and then make some move. And then this year, you know, 17 get shot and 8 dead. So every day you see something bigger happen. With money, when a money thief, you know, when a corruption or something bigger. It's a bigger corruption and bigger. So, I don't know. See, but I will tell you.
We have to move. We have to move, though.
Yeah, man, anyway. Yeah, because the time kind of... Yeah, man.
All right. Total different program. Yes. I wonder if we not follow we are going to America. Yes. I wonder if we not follow we are going in America.
From you still, you know. I want to know from the time you're traveling to Africa, which are the cheapest place in Africa you ever go, where you can be able to buy things and rent somewhere and live. You know, the cheapest place, you know, you ever go in Africa.
Ethiopia.
Ethiopia, okay. Okay, and it's the cheapest place you ever go in the world?
Well, I don't really judge it by, you know, when you did it, so if it's cheaper than England, if it's cheaper.
Oh, so there's about over 50,000.
50,000, what kind of that? What? Enough money that, brethren, enough money that, man.
I mean, like, if you live, like, you want to live over there, you know?
No, I don't know about live over there, but I say, you can rent house, buy land, all them something. $50,000 enough money, man. Trust me.
Oh?
Yeah, $50,000, enough money that.
Okay.
Why, yeah, $50,000?
No, somebody say I must call to find out because them a plan to
go over
retire.
there.
Them a plan to retire.
Retire in Africa.
Them want to go somewhere where them can relax more than, you know, Jamaica. Because it's expensive, you know?
No, man, it's expensive out there, yes. No, man, $50,000 enough money.
They're supposed to person to make her own 100,000 Jamaican dollar a month for them retirement cash. You think so that can make them live in Ethiopia comfortable?
It depends. Virgin is a tough question that you ask me, you know.
Oh.
So when I go there, I not go there for go live. I go there and come forward. But me know say when you have the money and you buy things down there, like food, cheap. Cheap. When I say cheap, I mean cheap.
Or dirt cheap.
Well, I don't know if it's dirt, but it's cheap.
Okay.
But you know, it's like, and it's so kind of expensive because they match everything with America.
Oh.
And, you know, England is the dearest place because still.
England?
Yeah, man. Over there so expensive. A pound them have in a dear, man.
Okay.
But yeah, to me, Ethiopia are the cheapest place.
But one thing
well, what you know, you see Zimbabwe. if you have 100 US dollars, like you're a millionaire, don't they, sir? It's like you're a billionaire.
Oh,
Because, hey, you go in all the supermarket to go buy things, you know. Well, at the time when me did go there, and you have 10 US dollars, you know, by the time you don't count the change when them give you, you know, it come like you're a millionaire, man.
Oh.
So the money never did value nothing for the level.
Oh.
So, you know, them and Mugabe never did a work out. And, yeah, so, but it kind of look like it's stable after, you know, but when I say Ethiopia in terms of food, and you go in a hotel, pay for a hotel, it kind of cheaper than Jamaica. Make me see it cheaper than Jamaica.
Oh, but one thing with Ethiopia, you know, the light gone all the while and it's up there.
Now, Nigeria, the light go all the while. We have to take a break and come forward. If you want to hold on, we have to take a break.
All right, hold on,
yeah.
all the while.
Yeah, that's what the light go all the while, Nigeria.
Okay.
Yeah, at the worst place, we go and see every minute light gone.
Okay.
And them have so much people down there, kind of confusing in a way, you know.
Oh.
Yeah, man. The whole people are the biggest population in Africa, you know.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's 100 million here, yeah.
Yeah, man. A whole heap of people there, man. You go to the market down there, man, you're frightened, man.
Yeah,
well, man, most of people, man, the market is bigger than Kingston, you know.
Okay.
Yeah, bigger than Kingston.
But in Ethiopia, no, the light.
All in Ethiopia, too. We go to the market, you have to spend the whole day.
Oh.
Yeah, too much things to see and buy and look on and all that.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you sound like you're more comfortable here than them places, hello.
Comfortable way?
Jamaica.
Well, me not judge comfort. You know, me live here, so, you know.
Oh.
Me live here, I'm born here, so, I don't know.
Oh, so you're not going to move. You know, Jamaica.
Where's a dash? I mean, I understand.
I mean, you're not going
no, Muda go live there.
Eh?
Muda live there. Muda live Africa. Yeah, man. South Africa, Ghana. Yeah, man.
I don't know.
Never, what?
To some people, to me, people that say, boy, if you go there and think, the culture, we don't use them culture there, so.
No, we're not used to nothing. So, Jamaica no fear adapt. Ghana not much different from Jamaica.
Oh, Ghana?
Yeah, Ghana not much different from Jamaica when you go there. South Africa come like it, America.
Okay.
You know, you have different places. Johannesburg look like New York. Cape Town look like California, you know.
Wow.
That thing.
I see.
Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah, man, we have to move.
Last thing.
Yeah.
Look at, I mean, the war theater there, so. Why they not turn that place into a music, a music hall?
You know, see the people, them are joker. Remember when the opposition leader and the prime minister go down and say them are renovated, paint up Labor Day thing?
Oh, yes, in 2017.
I don't remember how it went, but a joker, them, man, a joker. Yeah.
Them can use it as a music hall, you know, man.
Yeah, them can use it to enough things.
And them can keep stage show in there and all that and all type of stuff.
They didn't know it when movie used to show in there. You didn't know it that time there?
No, but we know when it used to have the play, you know?
Yeah, man. Pantomime and all that.
Pantomime and those things, you know?
Yeah, man. True story. Jamaica. It's one of the oldest theater in the Caribbean, too.
But what me see now, them do now, me see them paint up in front of it.
They make it look like everything all right.
Eh?
Make it look like it got to go on with things.
No, man, them only paint they sound in front of it, but they not paint the building.
You know, that me sure say when them paint it, so they make it look like things are going on for the building. And not now go on for the building.
But the pretty paint only show up the building more.
Of course. Yeah, man.
Boy, it look like the mayor of Kingston need some finance to continue the work still.
Well, I don't know.
So I wonder if the business people in downtown can come as one and donate.
Well, so they might do a sort of things with downtown. A whole lot of things are going downtown still, you know.
Eh?
Yeah, man. You know, water lane, down. Them are renovate the page, you see them paint up all the wall them and all them where
I digital me, I digital sponsor me.
I don't go digital alone, man. You know, the youth them go down and go do all volunteer work and the youth them, you know, fix up all the old building them, make them look artistic. Them have all art market down there.
Much thing.
Yeah, jazz down there every Sunday. You know, all them way there. Yeah, man.
Well,
on the Victoria Pier, they ram up like ram up. You know,
the Victoria Pier.
What, man? You never go down there?
Yeah, but
Sunday,
the people who live upstairs, the people who live upstairs are complaining, you know. Say the place are turning like ghetto now. So in time, them look down, them see the eagle, them line off up on the grass.
Them look so look down and see Pier C. She start coming on the land, so look down and think Pier C.
Yeah. All right, cool, yes, sir.
Yeah, man, Irie.
Yeah, my lovely people. Big up on yourself, you know. You know how the thing go. Hold on. Change over. Yeah, man. You know how the thing go, so big up yourself. You understand? Yeah. And if you watch the video to the end, you don't know how the thing go. Yeah, man. You know if you do already. Just like, share, and subscribe, right? Yeah, man. Yes, my people. You don't know how it go already. Teachings about Christianity and a bunch of things. So, yes, people. I one of them things there. So we catch you in the next one, right?
Yeah.